You're watching the GameSpot co-op stage, sponsored by LEGO Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. You're watching Tomorrow Daily, which is a CNET show where we've hijacked the GameSpot co-op stage here at E3 2016.
They'll never know.
They'll never find out.
Here.
I'm Ashley Esqueda, hello, and my wonderful co-host Jeff Kanata is hanging out with me here on stage, and we have a very special guest.
It's my old boss.
Hello, my friend.
Vic Lucas is here.
So we have, what, like 3 shows combined on
Yeah.
this stage. We're actually, with all of yours, that's like 6 shows, right?
It's a lot.
It's a lot of
Totally
shows.
rad on here.
A lot going on.
90 shows, yeah.
So you have EPNTV.tv,
Yes.
and you're a host and creator.
Yep.
So for you, E3 means what?
Well, you know what? I've been to all of them. This is
your 22nd E3.
22nd E3.
Wow.
And early on, when we were in sort of creating demos and pilots for Electric Playground in the very beginning of '95, this was Mecca back then. I knew that this was going to be the most important event for the video game industry.
It was in Atlanta then, right?
Yeah, the very first one. Oh
Yeah.
no, the first one was in LA. We did
Then-
2 years in LA and then 2 years in Atlanta,
And then it came back.
to LA. But so this has always been Mecca. This has always been like a very just important, I was going to say spiritual, but it's not spiritual. It's just an incredibly important trip for the entire community to come and get together and see all of this stuff and celebrate this business. And I feel it's incredibly important to continue to do that because the games industry needs to kind of show that this is a valuable art form on a consistent basis. And of course, that's been my whole career on television, is to kind of put cameras in people's faces and really show off this art form.
Convince people that this is high art, just as you would say cinema is. And
Absolutely.
I think this year is a great testament to that. I mean, we've seen
Absolutely.
some really amazing games. Obviously, people lost their minds when we saw God of War come back, but looks very cinematic. You were talking about that earlier, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I think they took a franchise that, let's be honest, was pretty juvenile.
Yeah.
And they actually managed to make it grounded and substantial and have this nuanced story that's really about parenting and being an adult. It's pretty amazing.
I think just the way that Grand Theft Auto kind of transitioned us into a more mature kind of art, look at this art form and this medium and ways to tell stories. I think the same can be said for The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And I feel like the effects of The Last of Us we're going to continue to feel. But I have to say something about that Sony press conference. I've seen every press conference. So that Sony one was a very special one. And I think it was kind of reflected in a little bit of the Sean Layden remarks about the awful stuff that happened in Orlando right at the beginning.
Sure.
But there was a maturity and a confidence in the stories that were told just in those little visual snippets that I think were profound. And to think that people in theaters all over America, and I think some in Canada too, were able to watch that as a show was very important. And I feel like the business can learn a lot from that kind of presentation. Great games.
It was a very
100%.
mature presentation, and like you said, I think confidence was such a big part of that presentation.
Yeah.
They said, we don't need to bring anybody out, we don't need to do demos, we're not going to even talk about it. Like, even when Kojima came out, it was just like, here's what I've been working on. Hope you love it. Like, and everybody was just like, I don't know what crazy thing this is with Norman Reedus and the baby and the craziness and the, but we love it and we want to play it.
Just to have that much time on Reedus' face while he's holding the baby and he's crying, that was significant.
Very poignant.
That was a big deal.
You used the word, and the word that they used on stage was show.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't a press conference.
That's
they
right.
realized that this isn't a press conference, it really is a show.
Yeah.
They approached it like a theatrical event,
Totally.
having the live music there and being on that beautiful Shrine Auditorium stage.
With
and
the dual
making
LED
use of that.
screens. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see, moving forward, it becoming even more a presentation rather than a press conference.
As it should be. Like I just interviewed Sam Witwer, who's the star of Days Gone, and he's a face that gamers know from other games, and we should kind of put these pieces together, It was just announced before before E3 that Jon Snow is going to be the villain in Call of Duty, and not to say that we need to put celebrities in all of this, but there needs to be this kind of entertainment familiarity with these properties and
Right.
and the people behind them.
I think we've seen a little bit of that with Nolan North, and we see a little bit of that, but it hasn't reached quite the fever pitch, I think, that we see obviously in movies or television.
Well, and the other thing that I'd like to see is more, and what you guys are doing here, and I think it's amazing. I've never had a stage at E3. I've always, hustled my butt from one interview
One
to the
appointment
other.
to the next, yeah.
Yes. But I think that to like put the developers in the middle of a stage like this and to turn the cameras on them and make that a show as well is very important. And I applaud GameSpot for doing that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's just a couple of years ago that the press conference was getting on stage and showing flow charts and bar graphs and saying we've sold X number of consoles, and it's really happened very quickly.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to be in this business for a long time, and I've seen that evolution from it being a tech and product-based industry to a full-fledged, we understand this is an entertainment industry, and we need to
the biggest entertainment industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's passed box office almost regularly now for how many years? Like a few years?
It has, but there's a bit of a misconception around that because of the price on games. I think that it hasn't affected as many lives as movies and television. Like not as many people, individuals consume this stuff on a regular basis and know all the intricacies of this stuff. And that's what I've endeavored to do with my programming and what GameSpot has endeavored to do.
And you said you're hustling your butt around here.
Yeah.
So what have you seen on the show floor just in the first couple of days that has impressed you most?
Well, I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. I love that. And I love that Call of Duty went in that direction a few years ago. But now androids seem to be in Deus Ex and Detroit, and we've got Call of Duty robots.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so looking forward to Detroit.
And Titanfall 2 is so amazing. It's a big shooter year.
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about that yesterday, the resurgence of FPS games. This is like a very big shooter year, and a lot of older franchises coming back, a lot of newer franchises entering the mix.
Yep.
It's pretty great.
But the fact that Nintendo has one game to play
I think
speaks volumes to the quality of that game.
I was going to say, and what a game it is.
We all thought they were insane, and then you walk into that booth and you're like, no. They created a magical fantasy world for us to walk into.
Yeah, and you don't want to leave.
It's incredible.
Right? And nothing can sort of shake it from your mind, right? You want to
total shameless self-promotion, but if anybody wants to, we have a 360 video on CNET's YouTube page. We have a 360 video. It's real short, and you can look around inside the Nintendo booth, which is pretty cool. So,
and it's worth looking into. I mean, it's so cacophonous here, and then you walk into that Nintendo booth, and you're in this. You're in Hyrule.
Yeah. That's the game too, right? I mean, there is a lot of killing and death, like there always is at E3. And then you go into Zelda, and it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It's like Miyazaki meets Miyamoto kind of vibe. And it's regardless of whatever your feelings are on Nintendo, this is something that everybody that likes this medium needs to see.
Aspires to. They should aspire to, right?
Yeah.
And it's. I love how they're willing to take a risk with such a storied franchise. Yeah. And it really does feel like, okay, we're all in on this, and it's a little crazy. Like it's not like any Zelda you've played before.
Yep.
But we think it works, and we're really excited about it, and we hope that you'll buy it alongside our new console next year.
It also sounds like, remember those 80 hours you put into the last Zelda? That's a drop in the bucket as to what you might be having to put into this one.
Well, and I think that speaks to the relevance and the maturity of the Western RPGs.
Sure.
I mean, Final Fantasy 15 is a reflection of that as well.
Yeah.
The BioWares and Bethesdas of the world have just been making things that have shocked the business from a very staunch old guard. The JRPG scene was the way that we played RPGs, and that's really shifted. And now we have an open world kitchen sink experience with Final Fantasy 15 and an open world Zelda for the first time.
Yeah.
It's very
it's amazing.
Amazing.
And the thing about the Zelda thing too that I always find really remarkable too is that I don't believe that it's the top selling of the Nintendo franchises. It always does well. But clearly, it is always the most expensive to make of the Nintendo franchises. And I applaud Nintendo for doing that, because they don't have to, but they do that, and
they don't compromise.
It's the prestige,
they don't compromise.
It's the prestige brand of Nintendo. It's like the prestige franchise,
and you feel it when you play that game. I mean, there's 1,000 open world games on the show floor. You play that one, and you go, there's a level of polish that's immediately palpable.
Totally.
Yeah.
No,
I'm asking everybody about VR.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's your feelings about VR? It's a big presence here.
I have to confess, I have not really sunk sunk in on the trade show floor.
Okay.
And it's mostly to do with my vanity, and I can't believe I'm revealing
You
that
don't want
here.
hair.
You're
You want
afraid-
VR hair.
I don't want,
You don't want someone to take a VR face picture.
And
That's what it
too,
is.
yes.
You don't want someone to go by with you like,
And so I actually told, and now it's out, thankfully. Like, it's actually available. I know you're Captain VR.
I love it.
I'm
He
sure
is.
you've been talking. Do you have a VR super suit underneath that?
I do indeed. I'll just rip it off at certain points.
we had him try on our show a Tesla suit that works with VR where it actually shocked him.
It electrocutes
hilarious.
you when you get
Yeah.
shot.
It was great.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I told Oculus and VR, I was like, I want to come for your demos, but we've done so many demo stories.
Yeah.
And all of them are, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. And I said, look, we just got to start reviewing the stuff. And that will be our coverage. Because I feel like consumers really want to know.
Yeah.
And they're hearing it from you. You're like, buy.
I love it.
Which is great. But I feel like consumers really want the scoop. Is this stuff worth the investment? Is it worth the time? And what games are really worth playing? So I'm excited to be at home in my underwear playing my VR and then conveying how I feel about this stuff later.
So I'm curious about this because right now in VR we're seeing a lot of experiences, not full games.
Yes.
Resident Evil will be, I think, one of the bigger full games that we'll see in the next year or so.
Fallout next year.
Fallout. I mean, I'm really excited about those, but a lot of the stuff like Batman,
Right.
Arkham VR, it's an experience, and it's an amazing experience.
Yeah.
But it's an experience.
Yeah.
And do you think that is a thing that gamers should be excited about, or should they and maybe get into VR to try those things out and get experimental with it so that, like Jeff, they're sort of really familiarized with VR? Or is it something that it's like, well, maybe you should wait, and then when you come into it later, when full games start coming out in force, then you'll be able to sort of check out those other things?
I think this is an eternal challenge in this game industry, right? I think that we need to have those test them out kind of experiences like on the Wii. But we also need to see that there is a product that you cannot miss.
Right.
And I think that Oculus and Vive, as much as I have seen them, haven't really got that everybody needs this experience. They need that story.
The storied console seller, right?
You can define it down to, or boil it down to killer app, but I feel like the Scorpio now for Xbox One has a little bit of that same issue right now. They talked about something that I think every fan of video game culture wants, but we don't know why we want it yet.
Yeah.
And it comes down to boiling it down to
we just hear
showing us
teraflops,
exactly.
Vic, and we just go crazy.
Yeah, well,
I need
6 teraflops.
I went crazy for that.
I know.
I still don't know why.
Yeah,
You know?
I gotta see why
And
first.
I think the VR is in that same dilemma. I think the Wii was in that dilemma. I think the DS was in that dilemma. Then the 3DS was in that dilemma.
Then the Wii U is in that dilemma.
And the Wii U. I think it's a cyclical thing. It's one of the big challenges of a tech-based entertainment thing, but
Solve
it's
the
also
why.
what makes the business so fun and exciting and scary and weird and just a perpetual thrill to cover,
Well, it's been awesome having you on, man.
my pleasure,
We
my
really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Tell people where they can find your stuff.
EPN.tv, where we're posting all kinds of stuff, and of course, like everybody else, we're testing a lot of content on Facebook right now on our Facebook page.
Awesome.
And then at Victor_Lucas, right?
At Victor_Lucas.
On
Yeah,
Twitter.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Everybody give Vic a nice round of applause.
Awesome.
Thank
you.
We are going to be back. Well, we're done here for the week, but Jeff, you've got a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah, we're going to be coming to you from this stage for more E3 coverage, so stick around.
He doesn't even know what show he's on.
I don't know.
No idea.
I'm not leaving this stage.
He lives here now.
I will not, until everyone talks about VR.
Tomorrow Daily will be back next week at its regular time and place at our Burbank studio. You can go to tomorrowdaily.com if you want to see more of our show. It's about future tech, pop culture, video games. We love it. And until then, be good humans. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Awesome.